Hi everyone, thank you so much for watching my video and your time. So this video is for my CIS 9467 midterm, and for this project I decided to use the intimate partner homicide suicide data that I got from the NYC open data. Not that I'm crazy and that I enjoy looking at homicide data, but it's interesting because I was recently reading the news and I read that due to the coronavirus and the national lockdowns, the rate of domestic violence has significantly increased. And because of that, I thought, why not search more about it and use it for my midterm. Also, not only that, I've always thought that it's important to bring awareness of this topic because it's very serious and it's still common, not only in the United States but around the world. And I hope that by extracting this data and put it into graphs, I could essentially facilitate people to fully understand the severity of this matter. Okay, so now we're gonna jump into the data set. So as you can see, this data set is not as extensive as the ones that you might have seen on YouTube from other classmates from previous classes, but this data set actually contains a lot of data, like useful data that could be used to put it into graphs. So this data set contains count data for the number of intimate partner homicide suicides that occurred in New York City. So this report provides information of the boroughs, as you can see here, the 5 boroughs. It also provides the relationship between the victim and the perpetrator, as you can see here as well. It also provides the the sex of the victims, and also the type of weapon used in the homicide and other things as well, which later on I'm gonna show you guys how I put it into graphs. Before I proceed, I want to make sure that you guys understand the definition of intimate partner homicide and suicide, what it really means. It's basically an abusive behavior, right, that occurs between your intimate partner and that ends up being a homicide, and then the perpetrator ends up killing himself or herself. So this is what this data set covers, and the whole purpose of this video is to show you guys that these unfortunate events are common nowadays, and that this data set is backing the unfortunate events. So hopefully you guys enjoy this video. Now I'm going to show you guys the domestic violence dashboard that I created based by using the data that I've mentioned previously. So the first data, as you can see, is the intimate partner homicide suicide by borough, as I mentioned before. So this is very cool because what I did was I created a pivot table of only the boroughs, and it provides the number of homicide suicide numbers. And I created the pivot, the graph, by clicking the pivot chart, and I decided to use the histogram because it represents the data very well. You can see here Brooklyn has 16 out of 40, which is the highest one in comparison with the other boroughs. Moving on, I also did the intimate partner homicide suicide victim sex, female and male. I was amazed, honestly, with this graph because it really shows the beauty of data visualization, right? Because I wasn't expecting this disparity between the two genders, but I put it into graphs and I saw this, and this is really unacceptable. First of all, when people say domestic violence, they automatically think, well, female, but then they don't take into account that it also happens to men, and it's 5%, but it still happens, right? But it's really crazy how like there's this big difference between victims being female and male. So that's why I decided to put it in a horizontal bar for you to see it in. I put the percentage as well by adding the data labels based on the data set from here. Moving on, I also created the victim and perpetrator relationship. As you can see here, there's 63% of the homicide suicide situations, right, are caused by your the victim's spouse. I can't even pronounce that, can't even talk. And then 30% is boyfriend, girlfriend, then 13% comes from common law, 10% ex-boyfriend, girlfriend. So you can see here, also this 2% also comes from same-sex partner, which I found very interesting. And with that, I forgot to show you guys, for the gender, as you can see, I separated male and female by creating a pivot table here and putting it in values and roles. Then the perpetrator and victim, the same thing. I created the pivot table, putting all the relationships between the victim and the perpetrator. And lastly, I added the intimate partner homicide suicide method. It's crazy because this data set also gave me the method of how the perpetrator killed the victim. So you can see a strangulation, gun, stabbing, other. And the most popular method, I guess, is the gun. And I also put it here in a pivot table. So this concludes my presentation, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Well, I mean, not enjoyed it, but because this is not enjoyable at all, but at least I hope that you guys are more aware that, again, this type of domestic violence happens, right? And even though it happens every day, we are not aware of it. So putting it in graphs hopefully helped you guys understand the severity of this matter. And thank you so much again for your time. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to put a comment and I will gladly answer. Thank you.